Welcome to WPI's Mathematical Sciences Virtual Open House. I am Professor Marcel Blaise, the Associate Head of the Mathematical Sciences Department, and I will be talking to you in this session about the undergraduate experience in the Mathematical Sciences Department here at WPI. So to give some summary, we have a lot of flexibility with 4 terms per year, close interaction with faculty, and you'll be collaborating with faculty actively in research, specifically for your major via the MQP. And you'll have very nice job and graduate school prospects after you finish. So, to start off, in the first year, typically when studying as a mathematical sciences or an actuarial math major, you focus on math, science, and humanities or social science courses. To get into the math courses, most students are starting with some kind of calculus. And the question becomes which calculus course is best for you. And we'll talk about that. We basically have 3 different versions of calculus. Our traditional calculus sequence, a calculus with review, which is a semester-long version of Calc 1 and 2, and an analysis sequence for Calc 3 and 4. Then we get into what comes after that, what are the next steps. So first, our traditional calculus sequence, Calc 1, 2, 3, and 4. Calc 1 is essentially differential calculus in one variable. Calc 2 is integral calculus in one variable. Calc 3 deals with infinite sequences in series, parametric curves, polar curves, vectors, some basic line and plane and space. Calc 4 is basically calculus in 3D. Each one of these is a term-length course for 1/3 unit of credit. And again, these are standard, what we would consider the standard calculus courses. Each one of these courses runs in every term, with the exception of Calc 1 and D term. The calculus with pre-calc review are the 1020 and 1120 sequence. 1020 is Calc 1 with your pre-calc review, but it's a semester-long course, so it's a 14-week course. This runs every fall. 1120 is the same sort of thing, except a Calc 2 that's semester long in the spring. Any degree requirement, WPI-wide, that requires Calc 1 or Calc 2, these will satisfy such requirements. And then we have the analysis sequence. So this is a special version of Calc 3 that runs in A term, and a special Calc 4 that runs in B term. These are the only terms in which these courses are offered. And these are, roughly speaking, math major versions of Calc 3 and 4. So we have a rigorous treatment of that material with proofs. And this is very good experience if you are going to major in math or actuarial math, or you just like math, you're good at math, or you're majoring in something that's quite math heavy, like computer science or electrical engineering. You can think of it really as a version of Calc 3 and 4, where you really see much more of the why behind the mathematics than you would in a traditional calculus course. So how do you decide which calc course to take? We're going to get into that in a minute, but we also have a placement test that you can use to decide which calculus course is right for you. And we encourage everyone to take that. But more about that in a moment. We also encourage students who are majoring in math or actuarial math to take our Bridge to Higher Math course. So this is Math 1971, and it runs every D term. And really, when you study mathematics at the college level, you make a transition at some point from courses that focus on calculation and problem solving to courses that focus on the idea of conjecture and proof. So can you prove a statement to be true, or can you disprove a statement? And this is the course that gives you a basic boot camp in how to think mathematically, how to develop the skills you need for mathematical logic, reasoning, and proof. And this is extremely useful for anyone majoring in math or actuarial math, or if you're really interested in studying math like a mathematician does. Incredibly useful course. This course pays massive dividends in the math major after your first year. Students are not required to take it, but they are strongly recommended to if you're majoring in math or actuarial math. Now, looking at the calculus issue, there are some ways that you can come in with credit for calculus courses, and there are some ways you can obtain credit for calculus courses without taking them. So first, college transfer credit. If you've taken a calculus course at another college, then you can contact the registrar's office and find out if your course is eligible for transfer credit for a calculus class at WPI. The other two policies we'll talk about are the advanced placement exam and the retroactive credit policy. So, advanced placement. First, if you have the AB version of advanced placement and you score a 4 or a 5 on the AP exam, this gives you credit for Calc 1 and Calc 2. And so that will be the 1021 and the 1022 version, your traditional sequence of Calc 1 and 2. The natural course of action to take if you enroll with this type of AB credit is you take Calc 3 in A term and Calc 4 in B term. And notice this lines up well with either the theoretical versions of Calc 3 and 4 or the traditional versions. If you have BC calculus credit, so if you've taken the BC exam and you get a 4 or a 5, this gives you credit for Calc 1, 2, and 3. And so again, that's 1021, 1022, and 1023. And the natural thing to do here is to start in Calc 4 in A term, which would be 1024. And then there's a special differential equations freshman only section in B term, and a special accelerated linear algebra called Math 2072 in C term for the cohort of students coming in with a 4 or a 5 on the BC exam. If you don't have advanced placement credit, but you have some experience with calculus, our retroactive credit policy may apply to you. So the way this works is, if you decide that you're ready for Calculus 2, but you don't have credit for Calc 1, if you take and pass Calc 2 in your first year, and you take and pass Calc 3 in your first year, then you retroactively get credit for Calc 1, for 1021. Similarly, if you feel ready for Calc 3 when you get to WPI, if you take and pass Calc 3 in the first year, and you take and pass Calc 4 in the first year, then you get retroactive credit for both Calc 1 and Calc 2. Note that there can be no math NRs, no changes, no substitutes, so there's no exceptions made to this policy. Now, how would you decide which calculus course is ready for you? Well, we have a math placement test. And so once you enroll at WPI, you get access to our math placement exam. And it's important to recognize that this exam exists for exactly one reason, and it is to help you find the right calculus course. It's not used in any other way. So it's a test that you take at your own time, at home, through an internet browser. And I encourage you to take it without using a book, without using your notes, without using phone a friend, because really what it's just trying to do is to assess what your calculus skills are and use that to decide what course is best for you. And students who use the recommendation of the calculus placement exam are far more likely to succeed than students who don't use the recommendation of the placement test. So I strongly encourage you to take that placement test if you're in a situation where you're trying to decide which calculus course is right for you. Now, after your first year as a math major, you start to feel around in the world of math. It's important to recognize that WPI has a very rich math major. And by that I mean we have a very large number of math courses compared to the number of courses you can take as a major, majoring in math or actuarial math. So you have to decide what kind of math interests you. This is very different than most other schools around the same size as WPI. And it's mainly because WPI is such a STEM-focused school that the university overall has a need for a large math department, which results in a large number of math courses. So, after your first year, you start taking what we call transition courses. They're listed here, and these are courses that expose you to different parts of mathematics and also start to expose you a bit more to proof-based math, which you get into much more in depth in many of the upper level courses when you get beyond the transition courses. And as you're going through your transition courses and your upper level courses, you work your way up to your MQP, and your MQP will be in the area that you specialize in with faculty members you've been working closely with and taking classes with. Some examples of MQPs in recent years are listed here. You can see there is quite a variety of topics. So we have mathematical modeling of brain tumors, topic in cryptography, a logistic regression project, cell motility. You see here a financial math project, a fractal antenna project. There are many different areas that you can work in. And I encourage you to look at the math department's website and look at the faculty page there. And you see any area that faculty are doing research in here at WPI is going to be fair game for a possible MQP. You also can have MQPs that are sponsored by a company or a government agency. We'll talk a bit more about that later. This last one, this calibration of optimal bidding, that was for a company that had sponsored a project for myself and my colleague Stefan Sturm. That was a pretty neat MQP. Actually, it was over 2 years. 2 different groups worked on it. In addition to our bachelor's degree, we also have master's programs. And it's very common for undergraduates to enroll in our BS-MS programs, which means you do your bachelor's and your master's within 5 years of study. There are 2 versions of this. If you're watching this, you're probably a prospective student or a parent of a prospective student. So the key one to look at here is what we call the 5-year BS-MS program. The 5-year program is something that is exclusive to the math department, and you have to apply for it when you're applying to admission, undergraduate admission to the university. So there's a box on the application that just says, check here if you're interested in the 5-year program in math. We strongly suggest that you check that box if you're considering majoring in math or actuarial math, because if you're accepted, it provides an option to use this program, but it is not a requirement to use this program. If accepted in the program, the student's progress is reviewed in the junior year. The student would have to work at least one term as a peer learning assistant, which is like an undergraduate teaching assistant. In the 5th year, the student has a half-time TA-ship, and the compensation for that half-time TA-ship is the 5th year is tuition free. And the choice for master's programs are from financial math, industrial math, and applied statistics. And it's done in 5 years. It's feasible in 5 years because there are some undergraduate upper-level courses that can count towards some master's degree requirements, and there are some master's courses that can double count down to some undergraduate degree requirements. We also have the standard BSMS program where a student, any undergraduate student in their junior year can apply. And basically the idea there is the student applies to the master's program when they're a junior, and then they do the bachelor's and the master's in 5 years. Similar in structure but as the previous program, but it doesn't have that half teaching assistantship. It's also common that many students minor in math or statistics. A lot of majors at WPI require a lot of math. That makes mathematical sciences minor fairly low-hanging fruit for many students. So you're taking 5 courses and then 1 capstone, which is going to be an upper-level course in math or statistics. The project that I had mentioned before that was sponsored by a company was done through the Center for Industrial Mathematics and Statistics, or CIMS. And this is a group of faculty, mostly housed in the Mathematical Sciences Department, who work closely with businesses and government agencies. And these types of partnerships often result in projects that are brought to CIMS by these external sponsors. And so you may recognize some of the names here. These are pictures of groups in the past, student groups doing project work with Pratt & Whitney, UTRC, IBM, and Bose. And here is a list of some companies that have sponsored projects in the past, but there have been over 100 different industrial projects through the years coming from many different companies. And this provides a fun, real-life setting for applying math to a problem. That being said, if there's anything else that you'd like to know about the first year experience as a math major or an actuarial math major, please don't hesitate to reach out to us in the Mathematical Sciences Department. And you can find our information here at this website. Thank you for your time, and we really hope that you consider coming to study math or actuarial math here at WPI. I think our undergrad students have a lot of fun studying math with us, and they do really well after they finish in terms of job and graduate school prospects. Thank you, and have a nice day.